Okay, so this is a short little sugya. We've talked about some of these issues, but I figured just polish it off because you guys are going on, a tziyul, and whatever we do, and whatever we don't, we'll pick up. After that, we have to go back to shemoneh-esrei, right? Because once we have their shir together, shemoneh-esrei is a great sugya. It's just very complicated and obscure. And when I was hanging out with some Rosh Yeshiva and Ramim at a shower brachas on Thursday, they're like, "Oh, shemoneh-esrei, yay! That's sugya that no one understands." Which is true. And then Adam sent me a book, a 75-page book just on Sirtut Be'el Ferret or something. Okay. What? No, for Sirtut. Okay, so the Gemara, though, in the middle of the Sirtut thing says that in addition, we've seen two halachot that are related and want to touch on them. One we've talked about quite a bit is verbalizing the Torah while writing, and the other one is what did the Gemara say you have to do in the middle of the Sirtut Gemara? Nachon, what does it say?
You have to write from a
Write minaksav. Write minaksav.
Right.
Remind me, who's your sofer? Are you doing sofers, Gavi? No. Okay. Right, you do minaksav. Now, tell me, why do you write minaksav? What do you think?
So you don't make a mistake.
Yeah. So one possibility is so you don't make a mistake. Good. So this is the classic question, right? We've seen this by several things in Ksivas Stam. Is this a practical halacha, right? Like the verbalizing. Remember the verbalizing?
Yeah.
Some people say the reason you verbalize is to make sure that you get it right.
Right.
And the other possibility is...
And then we brought the opinions that you need both verbalizing and...
Right, but we said verbalizing might be part of the chalais, right? Part of the actual process of reliving...
Or is it just...
Matan Torah. So here you have a similar type of question. Therefore, we'll see both of these questions interspersed. And again, this is really mostly halacha, and you'll see the two perspectives as they play out in halacha. So look at the sources. The Torah summarizes. You have to write. This is tefillin from text. And you have to write each word, verbalize each word as you write it. Now, it's possible that you could have argued that whatever's true of one is true of the other. Meaning, if you take a fundamental approach to the kriya, right, the fact that you have to verbalize, and the connection here might indicate that this is also a fundamental halacha or not. It might just be two different halacha that we have, and they're practically but not conceptually are related. But it does sound like in the Torah they are not just practically related, but they are conceptually related. They are conceptually related. Because the Torah continues, Miu. Since the Sofrim really know these four parshiyot by heart, right? Right, by Sofrim, you know all four parshiyot by heart?
Right, of course.
You're like, Shema, V'haya, sure. Right. Those two that I say in the morning, what are they called again?
Right, and the other one.
Since everybody knows them by heart, you can write them by heart and shalom and eksav. So if you look at the Torah, from the Torah, are these two halachot conceptually related?
No.
It sounds like they are, right? Because he says that they're both, it's mutter to write tefillin, not from ksav, and verbally, because you know them well, which sounds like they're the same halacha, right? Meaning they're both practical, they're both pragmatic, right? The reason you write it min aksav is to make sure you don't make a mistake. The reason you verbalize is you don't make a mistake, and therefore, if you don't think you're going to make a mistake because you're fluent to them,
you need one or the other. So they're not conceptual.
No, conceptually linked, meaning they're for the same reason. Not that they're both needed for the same reason, purely practical.
Okay,
right? I mean, the Torah seems to say two things.
You could do one or the other.
No, you need both.
No, but they're both.
No, he says both.
They're both for the same reason, though.
Correct.
Both so you don't
They
make a
both
mistake.
achieve the same thing.
Correct, and they both.
Why do you need both?
Yeah, why do you need both? If you're just doing one, if you're just saying out loud, whatever, so you don't make the mistake. Then
I mean, you could have made that argument, but lav dafka, right?
What do you mean? Like you don't.
What do you mean? They're both.
In front of you.
You don't ever do more than one thing to make sure you get.
Don't need
remember?
to. It's not. This could just be a lechatchila.
It's redundant.
Oh, so the question of lechatchila or the evet is interesting, right? It could be in a chanami, right? If you don't do it, it might be fine.
But even in lechatchila, why would you still need?
Really? Let's just forget lumdus for a second, right? If you want to make sure you write carefully, does writing it from a text and verbalizing, do they do the exact same thing? Exactly. They don't.
They're both so you don't make a mistake.
Yeah, but think about it, right? I look at it so I know exactly what I'm writing, and I verbalize it to make sure that, sometimes things get confused. Yeah, but sometimes things get confused from here, right? Meaning, you look at it, right? You want to be really careful, right? You copy.
You say, if I write it if I copy it, I don't need to verbalize it. But
You could have, but they work in slightly different ways. They're both making sure you get it right. But I'm saying just practically, you've never done this before? Like,
I'm saying it's just not needed.
What do you mean? If you're copying down a phone number, right?
Right.
Right? You don't sometimes find yourself verbalizing, even though you're copying it from a thing? Sometimes. Right? 5, 4, 6, 2, 9.
It's not like...
Okay.
It helps.
Okay, so that might be a lechatchila b'diavad. The point is, he thinks that both of these are aids to right? These are aids to make sure you get it right.
Sure.
So from the Torah, it sounds like they're both conceptually similar, meaning they're both practical.
Right.
And l'may nafka, meaning they're both practical. He's explicit that you don't always need them. Right? Meaning, you learn two things in the Torah. He thinks both these halachas are just to make sure you get it right. And therefore, if it's something where I don't think you need it to get it right, because you know it, you don't need either one of them. Which means that me'ikra din, what does the Torah seem to think? That this is all practical, all pragmatic, and therefore what happens if you don't have it?
Nothing.
It's keferlach, right? It doesn't matter. It's fine, right? As long as you get it right, you get it right. Who cares?
What does it say with Sarah?
So he says...
He's using the word vitzarach, and it's needed.
Right, but Tzarach doesn't... Right, but, yeah, I mean... Except his next line, there's not the Torah, right? He says Vitzarach, and he says, but if it's these Ari Parsha, you don't have to. I mean, Tzarach means,
it's preferred.
Tzarach means, like, you gotta get it right. So, like, Sefer Torah, you don't have a choice. And Tefillin, like, it'll be okay. Every so
I think one of these pipes are sewage.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. They have to do something with this when they finally finish this room. Okay.
If they finish it.
Now, based on this, what would you think? So, what about mezuzah? Do you think mezuzah needs minaksav? What would you say?
No, because it's a whole parsha.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly b'diuk, and that's exactly what the Torah says in number 2. Kol mishpatei sefer Torah b'inyan ibura or l'shmo b'din adyo v'aksiv v'atagan shatnes gets kach wadin mezuzah. Right, all the halachot of preparing the parchment and lishma. But you did lishma, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that just to check, right? Ray Wasserman told me you guys did lishma with him, so I don't have to do that again. And Ray Sklar said you started tzitzis. You did Lila, Ksus Yom things with him.
Very lately, yeah.
Okay, fine. But we're gonna after this. I think we're gonna move to tzitzis development, Lamed Zayin and Beis. Okay. Anyways, probably next week when we finish here. So he says, anyways. So all those halachas by mezuzah, except Elishin, Elishin nechdevet shalom neksav. Except mezuzah can be written not from text. Where?
In the back.
On the back table?
Yeah.
On the back table? Or on the
Is
shul?
there overlap?
On the shul? Shul maybe?
The shul.
We can go to the shul. It's fine. Yeah, it is a bit windy. They really got to put a wall here. Like, we're in that time of year. It'll be snowing. I mean, not so much here, but.
I think that'd be nice.
Sorry, I'm going to give here. It's getting too windy outside. Here, fine. Okay. Let's put this up. Should be fine. Fine. Okay. When you look at the Beis Yosef, right, he summarizes the way the Torah clearly understands the sugya, right? He says, and then he quotes from our Gemara and from the Gemara Megillah. You aren't allowed to write even a single letter not from Ksav. Probably have to close that window. Close the window. Or whatever. If they're not bothered, they're not bothered. Yeah, that should lock out all sound. It's supposed to lock out shrapnel, so it should lock out sound too. When I need to, I give one recorded share now where I just talk into a recorder, so to make sure that nothing, like I go into the mamad in my house, I close the metal window and I close the metal door, and it protects me from bombs and sounds, Okay, so he says, "Umasikin the tefillin mezuzah nechlan shalom aksav." My time, grisen, right? And then the Gemara says explicitly, right, that tefillin you're allowed to, right? By the way, the Torah didn't make this up. This halacha, right? This is the simple pshat in the Gemara, right? That the Gemara says, right? Correct? Nachum, right? This comes from the Gemara because the Gemara says that tefillin people know. Perish Rashi Shiguras and B'fei Hakol. Everyone knows tefillin by heart, right? And that's why you can write shalom aksav. Right? This is the simple pshat in the Gemara. So then he says, but wait a second. If the Gemara says that you don't have to write Tefillin and Aksav because everybody knows them, so I Nachum's kasha, then why do you use the word tzarech? Right? So he says something quite radical. So the first half of what he says makes a lot of sense, which is that, well, maybe if you're a sofer who doesn't know those 4 parshas by heart, then you need it. But then he says something very surprising. And it's hard to really explain this halacha. Let's look at just his last line. He says, Shem nimtza is a sofer she'ein parshas alal shkuros befiv. If there's a sofer who doesn't know these parshas, what would you have said? Let's say someone knows Shman V'haya Baal Peh, but he doesn't know Kol B'chor. So what would you have said?
Then he needs just Kol B'chor.
Good.
No, because
Right, so you probably, if you thought it was purely practical, then what would you have said?
You could just write B'haya.
So whatever you know by heart, you know by heart. Whatever you don't know by heart, you don't know by heart. And whatever you don't know by heart, make sure you have a book in front of you. But he says, but he says, I think that if a sober doesn't know all of them, then he can't write any of it, Shalom and Aksav.
If he forgets a word halfway through, does he have to restart the whole thing?
Right, so it's a weird halacha, right? I mean, it's maybe, right? But what does that sound like? That already opens the door that maybe this is not purely practical, because it doesn't make sense, right? Meaning if it was just practical, so then you only need ksav.
For the one you forgot.
For one you don't know. Right? This already opens the possibility that this is not only practical,
it's an actual halacha.
Right? That there's a halacha. What's the halacha? Not clear. Right? But the fact that he says that you need it for the parts that you do know Baal Peh, if you don't know everything Baal Peh, there does seem to be something formal going on, because otherwise this doesn't make sense.
So are you yotzei on what you already know if you forget one word?
Again, that's the question he leaves open, right? It's not clear, right?
Then probably not. But
Possibly not, right? Now this is a very weird, right? This is a very strange position. But it does show you that Beis Yosef clearly thinks it's not purely practical. The Bach goes even farther, and the Bach says, V'tzarech sheyichtav mi'aksav, perish, dina hachi. This is the halacha. Shetzarech sheyichtav mi'aksav. Ella, lefisha, sofer migras grisen behu, yechol nechtov Baal Peh. But because Sofrim know the Arba Parsha of Tefillin by heart, they can do it by heart. Amol misha matil lichtov to lav migras garis behu, tzarech sheyichtav mi'aksav. But someone who doesn't know it by heart and starts writing there from an aksav has to continue me aksav. And he says, "Ve'eni yodeya, maya kashal bes Yosef hotzi din chadash so far dein skurs befiv also lechtov shalom and aksav. Filo osa makes it shag befiv. Telesa." He said, "I don't know what the Beis Yosef is talking about. He's just wrong. And what is this halacha? Right? That the part of it that you don't know by heart, you makes it the part that you do know by heart you have to write from an aksav. That's very strange. I don't believe this." So that doesn't make any sense. The part that you know by heart, so you can say by heart. So then he has a problem, right? The Beis Yosef, he solved the word v'tzarech by coming up with this strange halacha. Now you could have just simply said, look, v'tzarech means if you don't know by heart, so write it in aksav. Or you come up with the weird chiddush of the Beis Yosef. The Bach does neither. The Bach, after rejecting the Beis Yosef's formality, comes up with a new formality. And he is very right, and he says, "Oh, nira, ikar darbenos over the mitzvah and muvchar lechos van miksav, afilu shkuris befif." He thinks that lechatchila, even if you can write it by heart, you shouldn't. Now, why might that be true?
Because you still might make a mistake.
Good. So one is a totally practical halacha, which is to say, look, even when you know something about heart, sometimes you make mistakes. The best of sofer makes
But it
mistakes.
still doesn't sound like a halacha. That could just be practical. Like,
Correct. So he said maybe that's what it means. It means not, you don't have to, but like, you should do it. Like, you should. Tzarech just means you should.
it's archis,
Right?
such a strong word.
Elafisha, so from Nogul Chosman Balpeh, Henichulem Chacham Min Hagam. And he says, it's really lechatchila you should do it. And even though people do it, so they don't stop them. But they shouldn't. V'zed Lotani writes at Kosher Lo Minak Midoch Aksav that we mashma lechatchila ela nichtav shlo miksav aksav kolomar yecholun chazon in mochen behen. And all it means is that we don't stop you. Right? We don't stop you, but really, everybody should do it minaksav. So that's the other position. He says this as well in number 5, in the context of mezuzah. Okay? So it could just be that the reason that this is true is for practical reasons, but why else might it be true? No, come on. Remember, we had the same diyun by saying it, right, verbalizing the words, right? It could just be practical, but it's not practical. Here, you could say it's practical, maybe even lechatchila you should do it even if you could do it without, but it might be
an actual kiyum.
Yeah, it might be a kiyum. Why would it be a kiyum? So if you look at the Mishnah Berurah, number 6, he says, Mashma, this shekikosev mitoch haksav, ein tzarach lo b'fei. He said, first of all, if you really, this is right, Nachum's point, right? He said, first of all, if it's purely practical, so then maybe you should do both, but really make Arden, you only need one or the other. Right, okay, fine. Umayidavka shkuros lo. Gamken. And this is only if you really know it. V'az lo chashin shemayita. So he says, look, simple pshat is that they're both practical, and therefore we really only need one. But we know that at least by ksiva, while verbalizing, why did the poskim say that there you have to, right? There was two, we saw that by ksiva, while verbalizing, there was two positions. Either it's totally practical or right, it's like to mimic, right, Moshe. There's another formulation we'll see here on the Achronim, which is it's not just to mimic Moshe, but it's to be mekadesh the letters. Right, and this is what he writes in the Bach. V'tam kazav Bach, t'kaching mitzvahs ksiva stam, kedei shetia kedushas hevel kriya kol teva v'teva yotim v'yakor nimsheches ala osios. That the holiness that comes from your breath sanctifies the letters. Don't ask me what that means, but that's it. Exactly. Now it could be that the same thing is true by writing menaksav. Right? I mean, it could be. We already saw in the Beis Yosef this hint that it's formal. We've seen in the Torah that these two halachot seem to be conceptually linked. So once you think that there's a formal element to verbalizing it, and that may be relevant to actually creating the kedusha, it could be that for some reason the same thing we true of writing menaksav. Now I don't know if that's because you like draw kedusha from what you're writing on, right? But give me one nafkamina. Give me a good nafkamina to whether you think that writing menaksav is purely practical or whether it's about sanctifying the letters.
If you
So
one is b'diavad. Good. What else?
all time or just
Maybe. What else? This is something we talked about, and this is why I brought it back, because you asked me, what ksav do you have to write it from? If it's purely practical, so
you could print a piece of paper and
yeah, you could write it from a tikkun, which is, I think, what most of them do. But if you really thought this was fundamental, then what might you
you
think?
have to write it from another
Then you might have to write it from a kosher thing, right? If you saw somebody say that, right? If you saw somebody say that, that might indicate that they
It's a
think
fundamental part. Why
yeah,
is where you
I don't know.
from
You
a-
know, I don't know if you draw the kedusha from what's written. You're connecting yourself to the Masorah. I don't know. Come up with something. I don't know.
It's kind of a little heebie-jeebie type stuff.
What?
Kind of sounds a little.
Yeah. So skip to number 8. This is by the context of Megillah. Now, by Megillah, what would you say?
Does not.
So you would have thought it doesn't need it. Why would you say it doesn't need
There's
it?
no Hashem's name.
No Hashem's name. What else?
It's not.
the halacha of mistakes are much more makil, right? You can make a bunch of mistakes, right?
Sidron applies to
No, I don't think so. But like Megillah also, right? There can be a bunch of mistakes and be kasher, right? So you really would have expected that the standard would be long. But if you look at the Ramah, you could write Sefer Torah in English too, not in English, in Greek. Anyways, but look at the Ramah. The Ramah writes in 8. If you look at the Ramah where the print is smaller, Gam tzarich l'chasom min aksav l'hotzi kol tevim v'kodem shichtevena k'mo b'sefer Torah. By Megillah, you need it also. Now that already, right, points in the direction might be fundamental because these are things that mistakes are not as important, right? But lo baruch.
But again, how's it using tzarich here? Like needed as in like
again, I don't know.
Or needed as in
yeah, I don't know. But if you look now at the Piskei Tshuva, you'll see again. I think the majority view is that. If you ask me, I would say the majority view is that writing min aksav is purely practical. Writing, verbalizing, that's probably still the majority view, but there's a much more dominant voice that says that's about making mekadesh the letters or mimicking Moshe Rabbeinu. Right there, you already see that in Tosfos. You see that, right? The Rav developed that. There's evidence of that. By writing min aksav, I would say that's really the minority view. It does seem to be that it's just practical, but the Beis Yosef already seems to think it's somewhat formal. But the Piskei Tshuva, if ever you want someone who's going to give you a bit of a mystical answer, Piskei Tshuva is probably a good place to go, because the Piskei Tshuva is basically a compendium. He's very, very good, but one of the things he does, he's a Hasidish posek, and he lists like every Hasidish and mystical position you could probably think of, in addition to everything. Well,
mystical here in Migdal. Those two usually don't.
Okay, anyways, but he does quote, there are some poskim who think that even the writing min aksav is more from this fundamental world. So if you look at number 9, Piskei Tshuvos, he writes, "B'inyan ha'atakas aksiva mitoch sefer v'amir zatevis b'fiv." Right, with regards to these two halachos of writing sefer Torah from the text and verbalizing, he says, "If you don't know the right, quoting Shulchan Aruch, if you don't know the parsha well, you have to write it from writing." Is a v'sikum inyan zeh. Ki lichatchila min ha'hider l'kol sofer lahargal atzmo tamid shel l'chtov el midoch ha'ksav v'gam bir b'fiv. Lichatchila, you should only, every sofer should only write copying and verbalizing. V'afilu parshat shkurot, even those things you know by heart, b'fiv. Kidei l'kadesh ha'odiot al yidei amira v'hevel piv. To sanctify the words. You're allowed to verbalize 2 or 3 words at once. He said some people know that practically you're less likely to make a mistake if you do word. Okay, but halachically you don't have to. When you get to Shem Hashem, he says you should actually set the letters or say Havaya.
You should say Yud.
He says Yud, either say Havaya or say Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. Skip to the next paragraph. He says, really, really, if you have one, you don't need the other. Right as the Mishnah Berurah says, these are right about memory. Mikra din, you only need one. Because looking at the letters should help you as much as verbalizing. And if you verbalize it, you'll be fine even if you don't read it. This is only those parts you know. But if you don't know it, then you need both. Or if you really don't know it, so then you need double reinforcement. Okay. B'diavad, if you didn't, so then plug to that poskim im kasher. It's a machlokes uladina machsharinan, right? Mikra halacha we're makil.
You don't know even one parsha you need.
Right, so it's mikra din. We saw this. The majority of you seems to be this is practical. So b'diavad, if you didn't do it, fine. But obviously, if you didn't do it, make sure you edit it, right? You review it carefully, right? Because if you don't know it, right, make sure you got it right. When you edit it, you don't have to do it. Right? He says, when you go back to fix letters, you don't have to dafka do it min aksav. V'chalze gam ktivas osiyos shebesim ksiva Sefer Torah, and the same in the letters at the end of the Sefer Torah. Kevan shasofer kosei va'os elamasher chel reik al roi v'nachal nomer ba'os or teva gedel kazer ksiva hevel fiv gedel rabach. He said it's best to verbalize the words to mimikadesh them. So what does it sound like he says? It sounds like he's saying, right, that at least when it comes to the verbalizing, he thinks it's about being Mekadesh, right? There is that element. Meaning, he's a maker and they're both practical. But the Bach, at least, thinks that when it comes to verbalizing the words, that's about being Mekadesh. But what does he seem to, in the body of it, say? That really, the majority view is, at least when it's Minaksav, is that fundamental in any way? No. But in the footnote, he notes, and again, like I said, this is not the main view, but there is a view like this. And he notes, that there is one shita, and this is what I said before, who thinks that even this halacha of writing min aksav is also formal. Again, there's a minority view, but it is. And this is what he writes in the footnote. He quotes, Loshan Shulchan Aruch Loshan Mo'elas Mo'Kriv Fiv, the Gam Yosef is in Inyan Kedushas Osios, Ochem Sev Dirachsam Sofer, etc. Shall be minag asofrim shalano shalikram mito sefer torah kasha, parshim zuzuk shir, mitoch tikon sofrim. Yesh mekar din lekro befiv, afal b'shira mitoch aksav. The Gam Tulm Ashkuros befiv. So he quotes the Chassam Sofer, who says that if you write, the Chassam Sofer quoted from the Kesses HaSofer, that if you, this is a weird halacha, but now you have to see where he comes from. He says, if you copy from a tikkun, then you have to verbalize. But if you copy from a Sefer Torah, you don't have to verbalize. Right?
Because it could be that a tikkun makes a mistake.
So you could have said about that, but what does it sound like he's saying?
That it's Mekadesh.
Yeah, it's Mekadesh. There's two ways of being Mekadesh. Right? Again, this is very, very... Right? This is not a mainstream position.
It sounds more about the Masorah.
Correct. Meaning, right? It's this particular version of the Kesses HaSofer says, look, I think that both halachot are about Mekadesh. You have two ways of being Mekadesh letters. One is verbalizing, and you have to say that if you write it in a tikkun, because the tikkun is not kadosh inherently, but if you write it min sefer Torah, so then you don't have to verbalize. Correct. Now this shita clearly holds that both halachot are about kedusha. Again, is that the majority position?
Nope.
Bechal not. Right? And he writes that the Chassam Sofer himself didn't like this. The right? The Chassam Sofer said, what is this? Right? Meaning, if it's about practical, then who cares? From a Sefer Torah, from a... Right? It doesn't matter. So what does he say? Al korch de chavanasul in the kadosh aksiva. He said, it must be that this shita holds that both halachos are not practical. They are part of being mekadesh the osios. The chaven sharom mitoch sefer Torah kosher daibos el kadesh osios. Right, and that shita, the Kesses HaSofer quotes, must hold that both halachot are. Oh yeah, I mean this is all going to be lechatchila, and he says, "Lefizem ashkasev Shulchan Aruch Harav Al Sharia b'chsav moelas k'mo bria v'viv." And he says, if that's the case, that's what the Shulchan Aruch means. That Shulchan Aruch Harav means that by writing it from ksav of Sefer Torah, it works like verbalizing it. So, what do you basically get from here? That you to take these two halachot. So again, let's just summarize it. Writing it the simplest pshat is that both halachot min ksav and verbalizing it are both about making sure you get it right. Therefore, b'diavad, you don't need it. Right? If you know the psukim by heart, you don't need it. Min aksav, the Bach says it's fundamental, l'kadesh ha'osios, right? To sanctify the letters. And the Rav, we saw, said that by verbalizing it, it's mimicking Moshe getting it from Hashem. Yeah. Writing min aksav, the mamish kimat everybody says it's pragmatic, right? Make sure you don't make a mistake. The hint we have in Shulchan Aruch, in the Beis Yosef, that it might be more than just practical is his weird halacha that what?
That if you don't
It
know
has to
any of
be-
it, you have to write it.
I mean, if there's any of it that you don't know, then you have to write all of it, right? Which, again, I don't really understand the whole svara, but the fact that he posits that there are times when you are chayiv to write minaksav, even when you know those particular psukim, already points in a bit of a more fundamental direction. But that's really, whatever that means, it's really doesn't seem mainstream, and b'diavad we're really machshir it. The only hint we have of someone who really seems to hold this fundamental is the Shita quote in the Kesses HaSofer, who says no. Both of these halachos are more than just practical. They're both of it main kaddish the osios. And how do you sanctify the letters? You have two choices. Either you write it sefer torah kosher, or you verbalize it. Right? Now, according to him, clearly, as the Piskei Tshuva notes, he's clearly taking the approach that this is about kedusha. Right? And he just says there's two ways you can do it. If you're writing it from a tikkun, so you don't get any kedusha out of the tikkun, because the tikkun is kadosh. Then how do you make it kadosh? By verbalizing it. But your other option is to write it from a kosher sefer Torah. And if you copy from a kosher sefer Torah, so then you don't need to verbalize it, right? Like I said, this is one of those times where there's a hakira, but really one of those answers is much stronger than the other, right? But there is another view, and this is why when you guys asked me, right, do you copy from a kosher sefer Torah? The answer is, Lamaisa, no. Lamaisa, Rov Poskim say you just need a tikkun. But the Kesses HaSofer does quote the halacha, right? There's minhag, but the majority of this comes over notes is the minhag olam is
The tikkun was copied from a kosher sefer Torah.
correct, but it's not kadosh, and you are now writing kadosh from a non-kadosh. Right? It doesn't carry on that way. Okay. Let's just summarize it. Yeah, like I said, this is a very short sugya. I said I wanted to make sure that it'd be done in a day. There's not so much going on here, but you do see, right, when you push,
I like it.
almost always there's a second side. Even if, in this case, it's 99% of the evidence points in one direction.
It's halacha l'maisa. You don't need a copy from the teacher.
Halacha l'maisa, we paskin that they're both really pragmatic. So, right, really, you should do it to make sure you don't make a mistake. But if you don't do it, it's fine. And therefore, if you paskin is pragmatic, so there's no reason you shouldn't just use a
If
tikkun.
somebody did it without verbalizing, without copying it, you could trust that he didn't make a mistake. Or
So that's what the Piskei Tshuva said. You better make sure to go back and check and make sure you got it right. But assuming you check and it's right, so it's fine.
It's kosher.
Yeah, right. Look, some sophron will run it through a computer. Whatever.
Even if they did copy it, they still run it through.
Now remember, we said that one of the nafkaminas, right? We'd originally sort of seen this briefly through the lens of the silk screen Sefer Torah, right? Now based on this, as everybody is right, the majority view is that, is there any stopping a silk screen Sefer Torah based on these two halachot? Not really. Right? Not really. Right? Meaning both of these halachot, we said, there's a little bit more evidence that verbalizing is necessary to mekadesh it. Mitoch haksav kimat velo.
Well, we just said that b'diavad.
Good. We said the Piskei Tshuva quotes the Kesses HaSofer, but really, meaning in the end of the day, is this what's going to stop us, or is there 90% of the evidence points to the fact that both these halachos are practical? Even right by Sefer Torah it can't stop us. By Tefillin and Mezuzah, obviously it can. But the Shevet Levi summarizes this. Shevet Levi is Vosner, passed away a year or two ago. He was like 104 or something like that. So here he writes, L'nachron kibalti mechlo. I got your letter. V'odiot shaloni b'din kriyas hakosiv bal peh lefnei ksiva stam. Right, you asked me about verbalizing. Okay, so look at the next paragraph. So he says, Hinei lefine is daiti shalosh drachim lefanenu b'poskim das mechaber shulchan aruch das lavush dimei das abach. There are three positions regarding the verbalizing question. Das Beis Yosef b'Shulchan Aruch Al B'Mashev Beis Yosef b'Shem Ariach Zandri Shemidag b'Lashon Smag Daf Kaveinu Matik Mitoch Haksav Chayv Lo Tziv Al Peh B'Peh Apik Gemara B'Menachot etc. The Moshe Omer B'Kosev. The Ariach Zandri said one or the other, right? One or the other. V'Dafka so Fiza Shulchan Aruch Sozer Asma Kasher Igesh Magen Avram. He said the real Alexandri says you need one or the other. Why does he say you need one or the other? Guys, why do you need one or the other?
Do the same thing.
Yeah, because they're both practical, right? Shulchan Aruch sounds like Mechatchila he wants both, right? Who else paskins you need both? The Rama, because remember the Rama in Tafrei Tzadi Aleph says you need both. He says, maybe that's just right for a sefer Torah. You need both. The makor miktiv sefer Torah chosham ksheher requirement regadim lufizo da shulchan aruch gamzul torach ba'pek shows mitoch hasefer. But if you say, look, there's only a sefer Torah, it's only a chatchila, so really make our din definitely by mezuzah. You only need one or the other. He says, but first point is maybe you'll say, if you think it's just practical, so maybe by Sefer Torah, lechatchil, you need both. Why do you need both by Sefer Torah, even if it's practical?
Because it's more common.
Because it's just harder, right? This is not about Kedusha. If you say it's just practical, it's just like, it's hard. It's a lot of psukim. It's confusing. But Sefer Torah, by Tefillin and Mezuzah, it's just practical, so one or the other will suffice. But basically, he says, possibly one is that this is practical, so really make our din, you need one or the other. Maybe by Sefer Torah will tell you to do both. Fine. Second position. Das lavush, v'chen agra. The gambish goes in mitoch haksav chayv lotzi balpeh. Second possibility is that even when you write it, min haksav, you have to verbalize it. Based on, right, the Mishnah Berurah said that this is based on the Bach, who says that you need to mekadesh it behevel fiv. And then the third possibility, so then he says, right? Mechilas kvod Torah, so eno tzodek b'zed alavush cholek al shacharach v'dato ka'agra the b'cholf and gam b'gish gozev midoch k'sav zarchus b'al peh v'chazav atam mishum chashash sheyita. He says, but the lavush himself just seems to be very, very worried, right? Meaning, the Mishnah Berurah says that the reason you would always need to verbalize it is because of the Bach, right? But remember, there's always another possibility, which is not very lumdish, which is you always need to do both because. No, that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. But Rav Vosner says, look, the third possibility is that the reason you always need to verbalize it is to be mekadesh it. The first possibility was you only need one or the other because it's just about making a mistake. What's the other possibility? It's not a lumdish one. It's just you always have to do both because we're always worried you're going to make a mistake, right? Right?
Why both?
Because you're really worried, right? That's what he points out. He says the lavush. He says no. That's his point. His point is that Mishnah Berurah jumped to what Nachum said. Is why would you ever need both? It must be that it's fundamental. And Rav Vosner says not so fast. I understand you want to be lamdish, and maybe that's the better svara. But the lavush himself was just paranoid.
Somebody's going to be
right? Meaning he said there's really three possibilities. One is to be totally practical and not paranoid, and therefore one or the other. And therefore maybe by Sefer Torah you want both because by Sefer Torah you're more paranoid. Possibility two is you always need both because we're just super paranoid you're going to make a mistake. Meaning there are just paranoid people in this world. And he's like, the lavush is one of them. Okay? And he says possibility three is that, no, this is fundamental. Right? Right? Now he says, what's the nafkamina? What's the nafkamina between saying that you always need to write it min haksav and verbalize it because we're paranoid, and saying that you need to do it to be mekadesh the osios? What's the obvious nafkamina?
If you go right from
if you didn't do it, but you got everything right, is there anything lacking in your Sefer Torah, your Tefillin, or Mezuzah? If you think it's just about making a mistake, is there anything lacking assuming you got it all right? No. If you think it's about being mekadesh the letters, are you lacking something?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's still kosher.
It's kosher. But maybe, lechatchila, right, it's lacking some level of good. Now he notes that, at least when it comes to verbalizing, there is good reason to believe that it's fundamental. And what's his proof? That you don't have to look at the next paragraph. What's his proof? Come on, we've said it 10 times. I'm just doing this to summarize. What's his proof that at least by verbalizing it might be fundamental? The Gemara that says that Hashem would verbalize it, and Moshe would verbalize it, and Tosfos says this is the makor for verbalizing the letters. He said that sounds like the Bach. Right? That there's something fundamental. What?
Is he going to say it's halacha-theory?
No, but he just says that Tosfos on the Gemara makes it sound like at least the verbalizing one is fundamental, is adding something, is mimicking. Right? Whether you want to say it like the Bach, that's about adding kedusha, you want to say it like the Rav, it's about mimicking the way the Torah was given. Bengach or bengach, it's something more than practical. Yeah. And then he adds a little bit more lamdas here, and he says, I'll tell you a svara to it. Look at the next paragraph. This is also why I gave it, because it adds just a little bit more svara, another possibility. He says, this is what it says. Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Ksov l'chaz advarim ha'ila, ki al pi advarim ha'ila karadit chabris, v'chazal perish, ki al pi advarim al torah shebal peh. Onal yesh lomar, ki b'chol ksiva tzarech shiyuktam amir bal peh, l'kiddush ozid v'hainu ksov l'chaz advarim ha'ila al yidei amira. He says, it could be that, what does it come from? The fact that there's this level of Torah Shebal Peh in it. Right? The reason you verbalize it is to make sure that even the Torah Shebeksav has a level of Torah Shebal Peh in it. Right? That's his spin on it. Right? Okay, 3 spins on the same things. And then he says, okay, Vida. Now he moves to the second question. Right? The first half of it was about verbalizing. Now what about Minaksav? Vida, Dahad Mavur B'Simin Laman Beis. Said for shulchan aruch there is no difference between whether you write it from a kosher sefer Torah or from a tikkun. But he says the Chasam Sofer quotes from the Kesef Sofer, or in his Harurus, the Kesef Sofer rather says the Mikra din tzarach sefer Torah kosher lahatik. Chasam Sofer holds. Maybe I got this wrong. The Sefer Torah, sorry, it's right. It's not the Chasam Sofer is arguing the Kesef Sofer. The Chasam Sofer is quoting. It's the Chasam Sofer in his comment to the Kesef Sofer says that you need a kosher Sefer Torah. The Kevan Sheken Ledidan Shematim V'Tikon Sofrim Tzarich Min Din Likro Kovim Gam Ledaz Shulchan Aruch. The Chasam Sofer says, right, that if you're writing it Min Sefer Torah, then you don't need to verbalize it. But if you write it Min Tikon, you do. And he says that he doesn't understand why, right? Because if it's all practical, that shouldn't matter. And what's the answer? Right? What's going to be the answer? That according to the Shita, clearly what?
You made a mistake.
That it's?
Kedusha.
No, it's about Kedusha. This is the only Shita who would say that this is also Kedusha. Okay. Like I said, these are the 2 Shitas. They're pretty clear. Right? I think there's not much more on this sugya. I didn't say it was a very long sugya. The last point he just makes here is the question of both of these halachos. Do you need to do it one word at a time or multiple words? And he says, look, he just suggests that you should always do it word by word, just because human beings make mistakes. That's all. Okay, nothing, right? Because he gives an example. He says, like, even if you did Padanaram, right? You're like, oh, I know Padanaram, now I can go do it. He's like, how often will someone then write, like, Padamaram? Right? Like, you do a 2-word phrase and you end up messing up. It happens, right? It happens. Okay, fine. But he notes just one last thing. He says, look, I have a second svara, and he says maybe, besides the fact that it makes it easier to make sure you get it right when you say one word at a time, if you hold like the Bach, then maybe if you're being Mekadesh the words, you should be Mekadesh each one independently, because this way, the verbalizing of the word will go directly into the writing. So he says, if you hold like the Bach, then I have a second reason why you should do it word by word, which is that in addition to the fact that it'll make sure you don't make a mistake, right? It allows you to directly verbalize the word, to be Mekadesh it, and then write it. Right? It cuts down the time between the act of being Mekadesh. So he says, so if you really believe in this formal svara, so then maybe it's better to do it word by word. Okay, like I said, I don't think there's a tremendous amount in this sugya, but he polished it off. We covered this, and it answered your question of whether there's any value to doing it from a real Sefer Torah and not from a tikkun. The answer is, the majority view is no. There is this view of the Chasam Sofer on the Kesef Sofer that maybe yes, but Pashtus is when it comes to writing, definitely writing the Aksav, and maybe even writing, verbalizing while writing, that this is just a practical halacha with a few other positions that point in other directions. Okay, yeah, okay, good. Like I said we would definitely do this in one day. It's not a long. It's a very short.